Right. Hey, family, and welcome to the Critical Sense Making Sessions facilitated by yours truly, Revolutionary Rika. Today is episode 22. Today's topic is leadership and distance learning. Today's guest is Monique Walton. She is a San Francisco native and a current East Bay resident who is passionate about making people feel peace, love, and happiness when they are in her presence. Mo, tell us a little bit more about who you are and choose one word to describe how you're showing up.
Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Rika, definitely thank you for having me. A little bit more about me is I always try to keep it real. I love having a good time. I love bringing excitement and humor into everything that I do. What you see with me as a friend is what you'll see with me in our workspaces, and I'm very intentional in doing that because you got to enjoy what you're doing at all times, or you just not gonna do it well. Um, what was it? What do I bring into the space today? What is
Choose,
my? What did you say?
to choose one word to describe how you're showing up.
Mm. Today I'm showing up optimistic.
Mm, that's awesome. Well, thank you again for agreeing to be on the podcast today, and we look forward to making critical sense with you. So, to kick us off, I got an icebreaker question. I want to know what's on your playlist and what have you been listening to this week?
Um, this week my playlist is Sounds of Blackness, Optimistic.
I love that.
What else have I been listening to this week? Well, this morning, let me just go with this morning. This morning, I found the Songs of Salvation on Spotify, and it has been every soulful gospel song that I remember growing up. That just really fills me with the spirit of my parents and my grandparents, and taking me back to those Sunday mornings. um, and yeah, just giving this filling me up this morning. So that's kind of where I'm at. I listen to a lot of Donny Hathaway, India Irie. You will definitely, my '90s playlist keeps me hyped all the time. But when it's time for me to get some stuff done and just to really be thinking critically and in a space, like I need some Donny Hathaway. I need some stuff that just really speaks to um, our experiences and just giving me hope.
That's beautiful. So music to feed that soul. I love it.
Yes.
That's
Love
awesome.
is in need of love today. Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead
Ooh,
and listen to that.
you giving me a lot. Look, I'm gonna have to add all these to my playlist. I'm gonna kick us off into our first set of questions. So I would love for you to tell us a little bit more about life growing up in San Francisco.
Man, the best ever. That's I don't even know how else to really explain it. Like I just feel like I was one of the luckiest people in the world to be born and raised in the city. And my experiences, I grew up in Lakeview. Um, just it was cultural. It was live. It was full of family and connections, and everybody knew each other. Um, and generations knew each other, and so it was just that true neighborhood vibe and feel was just like none other. I went to St. Amedius, went to ICA, the Catholic school kiddo, but St. Amedius, same thing, small class, but like we just were amongst a diverse group of professionals and of people who just took in each and every one of us as their own kid, and just talking about that village, like it takes a village. It was just a true village growing up in the city, and I value that. And like I said, I feel lucky and honored that I was able to be raised in the city.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Thinking back on your childhood, how old were you when you discovered your leadership abilities?
I'm gonna say, well, it's interesting that you say that, because you asked that, because my mom in her mind, I was a leader from day one, because the conversations, what you always had was, you want to be a leader, not a follower. Don't be following what everybody else is doing. You need to be a leader, because you got to come home and answer to me. So that's that was the start. But I think that in eighth grade, I was an altar server. So this is a random conversation. I was an altar server, and in eighth grade, I actually was the manager, like the director of all the altar servers. So I created the schedule, I trained the new servers. Whenever there was a funeral or a benediction or whatever, like I was the one that would go to serve the masses. Um, and so I think that that was a time where what my mom was always telling me about being a leader, like I was able to see that. And then in the same year, I also was the captain of the safety patrol team too. And so, in charge of making sure everybody knew how to wear their belts and were on their corners when they needed to be. So I would say definitely around 12, 13 years old was when I kind of knew that there was some leadership stuff going on. But again, mom's been saying it for since day one.
Awesome. So how was your leadership nurtured at home?
Think I just kind of answered it. But just, my mom was she was a single mother. She climbed the ranks of corporate America. And so my it was nurtured through watching her experience navigating this white world of corporate America as a Black woman. And she, created systems, she created programs. She was big in really bringing like credit card swiping machines to life in California. Just watching her, I think, just be a leader, even if she didn't have the title, but leading in so many different ways. And then I also watched her be parent club president and school board president. So not only was she, leading within her professional realm, also, at home in that personal realm and family, and ensuring that whatever space that I was being educated in was a space that was right for me.
Mhm.
So I think that that coupled with all of her friends and colleagues, like I was just surrounded by Black women who were leaders in their own way, shape, or fashion, in so many different variety of ways. But yeah, my mom was, this is what you do, this is how you do it. And I used to always ask her, like, when I would hear her talking on the phone, and she would be having these conversations, and she'd be like, and so I this and this and this, and she'd get off the phone and be like, Monique. And I used to always ask her, like, how come she talks white on the phone?
Mm.
And so she would always say, it's not white, it's professional. And that's what you need to learn. Like, you have to know, your situation and where you are, and know how you need to act, and so that people will listen to you.
Mhm.
And so, like, those are some of the things that lessons that she kind of taught me about, just code switching, and things you need to do to um, maintain as best as possible your respect within your field.
I love that. So I hear the importance of modeling for our young people. Definitely showing
Oh,
them,
huge.
and not just showing them, but explaining why. That's what I
Hmm.
hear you saying. Absolutely. That's
Hmm.
awesome. Um,
I think another, and I'm sorry because you just said that. I think another piece also is even when um, you might, I call it slip and fall and bump your head,
mhm,
and you go off, astray. Seeing that and experiencing that, and watching a person do that and grow, fall to some deep moments, and then come out of it and regain those leadership um, positions and roles and different things. So it's that modeling is good, but also to see, like, it's not just the good stuff, like it's also stuff that's not that good too, that you
absolutely.
watch and you model. And because I think that all of it um, you can learn a lot from all of it.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear you saying too, growing from our mistakes makes us stronger leaders in the end.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's awesome. How was your leadership cultivated in school?
Um, I would say that my mom probably had a little bit to do with it because she was the parent club president and the school board president. And so a lot of times things fell on me to do, or, the assumption. And I was a good student. I didn't, my mom never beat me, but I never wanted to find out what would get her to that point to beat me. So, I knew how to play the straight and narrow when I need, all the time. And I hated all of her lectures. So I wanted to minimize those as much as possible as well. But I found myself always being in spaces, be it basketball, where I was captain of the basketball team. Finally, when I actually learned how to play. And then as I went into high school, I got into student council, and I was doing like Girls Athletic Association. Um, and then I also was a lifer, and which is called Living in the Faith Experience. And so what we did was we led the retreats for all of our classes. So for all of we led all of we would have like quarterly retreats. Um, and so I always was falling into spaces where we were leading. And we always had like Spirit Week. And I always was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. We're going to play. This is what we're going to wear. Um, got the 4-year Spirit Award for it. Yes, moving out of high school. But I think that it was just for me, it was really the activities that I was involved in. Even going into high school, I was also a dancer, and so Saturday mornings I became a TA. So I would assist one of the teachers with the 3 and 4 and 5-year-old classes. Um, so really, I think it was a lot of just being in spaces and wanting to be involved and wanting everybody to have peace, love, and happiness all the time and having fun, whatever it is that we're doing. That just kind of put me in some spaces to have some leadership roles and to hone in on my capacity to lead.
Wonderful. How did your lead? I'm going to move us into our second set of questions. And so,
Okay.
how did your leadership abilities inform your career choice?
Well, I don't really, I'm looking at the question right now. I don't know, because I don't really know if I really thought about a career choice. My career choice going into college was I wanted to be a physical therapist because I tore my ACL playing basketball. And I got a basketball scholarship to play. When I got there, I was like, I want physical therapy. And they're like, well, we don't have that. Like, so what am I supposed to do? So they said we're going to PE. Um, and so I think that my leadership abilities informing my career choice, I could say maybe once I got out of college, undergrad, and I became a teacher, um, I kept wanting to again have a greater influence on the peace, love, and happiness and the soul and the enjoyment of school for students. And so as I was a PE teacher, and then I was the basketball coach for the girls basketball team. Um, and then I moved into being the leadership, the student activities director. So I was in charge of student leadership, of executive council, Spirit Week, and kind of like that teacher leader of school culture and climate. Um, and when I got that job, I had a principal. May she rest in peace. She actually passed away. It'll be a year actually at the end of this month. Um, she told me, she said, I'm going to put you on some committees at the district office. And I was like, oh no, I don't even like them people. Like, we're not even going to do that. She's like, no. She was like, you need to be there because you will be a principal one day. And then again, I was like, oh no, y'all can have that. I like what I'm doing. But she did. She started me going to this so I could learn the politics of schools, and so she started putting me in these positions of teacher leadership. And then once I left one school, I went to another school, and I was the activities director at this large school for 5 years. And again, it got to a point where I was saying, I want to, this message of the enjoyment of school and the enjoyment of learning, um, it needs to come outside of just being the spirit director, the rah rah person. And I like, this needs to be in policies. This needs to be coming from administrative teams that we support this, even though it's fun, it's crazy as ever. Like there's a lot of leadership in here. And when we talk about school and culture and climate, it's not just about how the kids are being treated in the classroom. Like what we embody as a positive school culture and climate as a school community. Our classrooms should fit into that. Like our classroom environments need to fit into that. And so in that space of what is when you think about culture and climate, like when I think about culture, I think about Black music. I think about when that song hit and I'm like, hey, and I do the whole video, and that feel good feeling, like everything that I even talked about, even through my schooling, and like that feeling is what I wanted to bring into every situation and every experience, because I felt like it's the best. And so I guess me becoming a principal has just come from me just getting to a point within a particular position where I was just like, okay, it's time for me to spread this out further. Like more people need to have this. There needs to be more of an influence on this. And that's kind of how I guess I kept going into this leadership role that, and by the way, I never wanted to be a teacher, a coach, or a principal. Just want to go ahead and put that out there. I said no to all of those. And here we are. So my wife was like, don't say no to nothing else. Like, because everything you done said no to, you have actually done. So we don't believe you when you say, no, I'm never going to do that. So who knows what's next?
You can't escape your calling.
You can't. You can. And it's a true lesson. It's a true testament to that. Because when I do reflect back on just the things that I've been involved in, it all speaks school leadership.
Absolutely.
It all speaks just being in a space of being able to cultivate and nurture minds, and people, and so
absolutely, that's powerful, Monique. How has your leadership been encouraged throughout your career?
I mean, a lot of it is people saying like, you're a great leader, you're going to be, or you're going to be a great leader. You have a way of connecting people. And you have a way of making people feel comfortable when they are in your space, no matter if people know each other or not. Like you seem to have that. And so I think it's a lot of it is hearing people make give these congratulatory notes, or just in case you didn't know, like this is what you do. And then taking a risk and planning things, and then them being successful, right? Like okay, like for instance, we were at one of the schools I was at, we were going to lose all of our funding for co and extracurricular activities. And so our students came up with this great fundraising plan called the 10-10-10. And so, we wanted to get everybody to donate at least $10. And so, it was like, well, what can we do? What can we do? Because I was big on a fundraiser that doesn't require a lot of extra work. So they're like, well, let's have a dance. And I was like, okay, can we open it up to all high schools in the Bay Area? I was like, ooh, y'all about to get in trouble. I was like, but hey, we could do this. We could do this. And then, it was really, us prepping a plan to present to our principal, and then my principal looking at me and trusting me. And probably did not want to say yes because of what could possibly happen when you have all these kids here, but just that trust. And we had 1,100 kids there from all throughout the Bay Area. We made like $20,000, and there was no fights. Right. It was a great time. So I think, like planning different things, that was me as a teacher. As a leader, um, I've meant this thing of reinventing what parent engagement really looks like.
Mhm.
And when we are having our families come on campus, instead of us just talking at them, this is what you need to know. This is this, and then just regular open house. Okay, you go sit in this classroom, and teacher's going to tell you this, and you go sit in this classroom, teacher's going to tell you this. But like, how do we make it engaging? How do we make it to where it's fun for the parents? They're learning, but they're also having experience.
Mhm.
Um, and so I planned a couple of family events, like open houses, and they were successful. And so again, just kind of taking those risks, and then seeing them come to life and be successful. I mean, that also, of course, would encourage any leader, when like, okay, I'm doing something right. It
Mhm.
might not all be right, but there's something that's being done that's right.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Seems like just what I heard from you, a lot of you had a proven track record, so they were willing to allow you to create what you wanted to create.
Hmm.
That's
And
amazing.
then the convincing piece too.
Yeah.
And that was one thing I remember, like at the end, like my boss, I called her boss lady, because she was so cool, and I had to make sure that she watched the Steve Harvey show, because it's a white lady. I had to make sure she watched the Steve Harvey show, so she knew Levita Alizé, and
Okay.
so she knew why I was calling her boss lady. And so still call her boss lady to this day. But she was just real about it. But I remember her saying after, she was like, I was so nervous. Like I might have lost a few nights of sleep. She said, but you were so excited about it, and convincing that it was going to be okay. And you had the kid, like you allowed the kids to lead this, and you're coming in, like, just, it was comforting. And so I think I would add that, as well as just the convincing, and which leads to the passion behind what it is that you are doing.
Hmm.
Like that draws people into to believing in you.
Hmm. Great. How do you empower young leaders coming up behind you?
Um, I just be me. I
Mm.
think one thing for our leaders coming up, I was one reason why I didn't want to go into leadership was because I didn't see myself as a leader. I didn't see myself as fitting what that perception of a leader was, and what I thought it was supposed to be. Um, and even as a teacher, coaching, um, I was always intentional about not trying to sugarcoat things, and not trying to be something different, or pretend that I'm a particular way so that I seem professional, like, right. And I think that that's important for young leaders, is to know that you shouldn't have to shift who you are, um, to lead.
Mhm.
And so, you come with the passion behind what it is that you're doing. You come with, doing your homework, doing your work, your practice, your refinement of what it is that you're doing. Um, and then you make sure that you bring that humor and that engagement, and that piece into what it is that you're doing. Because I just tell them, like, if you're not having fun, nobody else is going to have fun. You have to be the one that leads by that example. And I think a lot of that was when I was a activities director, and we would have dances, and I would ask my class, like, how are we doing on our ASB tickets, or how are we doing on our Spirit Week dance sales? Oh, we don't have as many. Then I'll say, okay, well, raise your hand in here if you bought your ticket. And it might be like maybe one or two students out of 70 that raise their hand. I'm like, well, how you gonna convince somebody else to go to the dance if you ain't bought your ticket? Like,
Mhm.
let's play this conversation out.
Mhm.
So, oh, hey, make sure you buy your Spirit Week ticket, Rika. We gonna, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be this. It's gonna be this. Rika asked me, well, did you buy your ticket yet? Oh, nah.
Mhm.
What's gonna make Rika want to buy that ticket if I haven't even bought into what it is I'm trying to get you to do? And so like that was always like always my statements with them. Like they would be like, well, people don't want to go to our dances because they're boring. I'm not boring. Are you boring? Because nothing that I put on is boring. And if I walk into somewhere and it's boring with it, I'm gonna make sure I have some fun because I paid my money. And
Mhm.
so I'm gonna make fun.
Yeah.
So if you say that this dance is whack, that means you whack. If you say this dance is boring, that means you boring.
Mhm.
So I think that that is kind of just the way in which I've empowered the young leaders that I've taught, my basketball players, and even now I'm at a point to where I'm actually hiring some of my former students as teachers and as librarians and counselors, like you name it. And so really allowing them, talking with them and encouraging them to branch out and be leaders and be authentic. What is it about what you are teaching right now that you want to see different? What is it, the curriculum? Okay, cool. Well, then change that up.
Yeah.
How do you add it in? Like how do I support you with that? So I think like I said, the greatest way that I empower leaders is just to be your authentic self in what you're doing.
It's interesting. Through your examples, I hear and see what you talked about in those first set of questions about your mom. You're modeling. So,
Hmm.
did you buy your ticket? All those things, I can just hear those life lessons that you learned early on actually in your career. So that's
Oh
awesome.
yeah. A lot of my mama comes out in mostly everything that I say. And I used to be a lecture too that I would give to my kids. Everything your mom said is right. Like you might not think it now, but
Right.
trust me, when you get out there, when you start reciting what your mom said to you, then you're gonna see it come to life.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, she is sprinkled throughout every bit of me being a leader. Definitely she or even my dad has influenced my walk.
Mm-hmm. I recall a conversation we had during the program, and you talked about everything your mom said is right because you talked about that one friend that your mom was like, I don't like her, something ain't right. And then 2, 3 weeks down the line, a couple of months down the line, you figure it out. It's funny. So
Hmm.
now, when the old folks say something now to me or my mother or whoever, I'm like, I'm listening because, like you said, 99.9% of the time they was right.
Hmm.
Is
Yeah.
there? It's a slim chance that they may be off, but most of the time they are right.
Yeah. And it's and it's funny when you become that parent. I don't have kids. My wife and I, we don't have kids. However, a lot of our basketball players, which they're our kids. That's our kids, that's our family. And so over the years, when new love interests will be surfacing up, or friends will be coming, they bring them over. It was like they got to bring them over to Steph and Mo, the coach and Steph, and see if they can make it. Like this was the test.
Yeah.
So if you could sit in this house comfortably and enjoy and have fun, and we kind of talk to you for a minute, and we'll tell you like, that ain't the one. That's not that one right there. That's not the one. So it's funny when then you become the mother in that space, and again you see exactly the things that she saw in people that you did not want to see.
Mhm.
um you get it, because her thing was if they can't come over to the house, then they you don't need to be hanging out with them.
Exactly.
Like how true is that? Like think about that. Like how if you can't bring somebody into your parents house,
Hmm. Some may.
hmm, something ain't right.
Hmm.
So
And we didn't have those lenses at that age, right? So now we got
mm-mm.
all these different lenses based on our experiences, the knowledge, the information, the wisdom that we've gathered over the years, and so we see things differently. We can read
Yeah.
through those. We can see those snide looks and those snide
Hmm.
comments and all those different things that people give, which they could at that time, but we just didn't have them lenses, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you do become your parents.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to move us into the third set of questions. And so
All
the
right.
first question is, or the first prompt is define distance learning for those who are unfamiliar with the term.
let's just say this. I just learned the term too 9 months ago.
We all
I don't
did.
even know. I don't even know if I can give you a distinct definition. All I know is that it's not safe for us to be in person.
Mhm.
And so now we have to do our best to engage and educate our young people from the comforts of our own home and with them in their homes. That's distance learning. I've never I yeah. There's not a program, and I don't think that there is an experience that I have had that that gave me any type of insight on how to run a school from my kitchen table.
Mhm. Mhm. That's where y'all.
Um, yeah, so like I think the one thing, and it goes back to leadership, to being activities director. You never know how things are going to play out, right? And so you always have to have, when you having a rally or you having a dance, like you got to have plan B, C, and D, or actually be able to be thinking about what to do,
Mhm.
um so that you stay calm. And I used to always tell my kids, like, do you see me worried? And they're like, no. Okay, once you see me worried, then that's when it's time to worry. But if you don't see me worried, we good. We gonna make it do what it do. It's gonna be fine, like that. And so I think that when we had to shut down so abruptly and shift everything to distance, I recall myself telling some of my staff, like, if you don't see me worry, don't worry. We're gonna figure this out.
Mhm.
And now I might be scared out of my daggone mind, not even knowing what is going to happen. But as the leader, like, you have to bring that sense of calm, even though calm amongst the chaos, even though you really don't know.
Mhm.
Um, but you just gotta be you gotta be ready. So distance learning is figuring out how to engage our youth through technology and educate them.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I heard from what I heard you say, what's the term now they're using? Pivot. We can't be afraid to be able to pivot from what we used
Hmm.
to doing to just like, okay, now we gotta pivot in this direction and keep the ball going, but it may not be, like I think it was Bettina Love we was listening to, and she talked about that pivot that happened in March and that everything
Hmm.
they said we couldn't do in education. Somehow we can do it. We can give kids computers. We can, all these things that happened last year. So I think I've been embracing the pivot because I don't want to
I
be
like
set
that.
on one thing, right? I want to be able to
Hmm.
just, bam, I can go in this direction. I can go in that direction. I can go in any direction I want, and
Yeah.
somebody's going to get something from it. It's just not going to
Yeah.
for the sake of going in a new direction.
I need to write that down. Embrace the pivot. Look, you interviewing me and I'm writing some stuff down that you saying.
You said it though. I'm just
I like the way you put it. How about that? Teamwork.
that makes the dream work.
That's right.
So,
Um,
how has your leadership been challenged during distance learning?
well, ooh, everybody take a deep breath and count to 10, 20, or 100.
You said,
Um, you know, I can't say that it's been challenged any differently than it was challenged prior to COVID, prior to the pandemic. Um, there's a shift in, people, a lot of people are okay with, and this is, of course, my opinion, a lot of people are okay with Black women being assistant principals.
mhm,
Like, we're okay with, like, we can manage that. That moment that we become the principal, the site leader, there's a shift.
mhm,
There's a shift in perceptions, expectations, respect. And so I think that the way in which I can say that my leadership has been challenged, is dealing with the unnecessary,
mhm,
the unnecessary. bullshit. Excuse my language. I'm not even sure we're supposed to be able to cuss on here. I'm sorry for the people. If it's
Authentic,
some
you go
kids,
authentically, straight with no chaser.
but dealing with the unnecessary uh politics and really seeing how um the system is not really set up to support the students. It's really set up to support the adults.
Mhm.
And so I think that what has challenged me the most during this time is as I move up this chain or this ladder of leadership, really acknowledging and seeing how Black women are not heard nor respected the way in which we should be.
Mhm.
And I think that for and I think about like our Black and brown, like our students and our families. I've been saying, if I'm being treated this way and I have degrees and I have the status, the class, you name it, I can only imagine how the students that look like me are being treated.
Mhm.
um, and then to just really just through this time just really see how majority of my time is spent dealing with adults and not really focusing on what really needs to be done for our young people. That has been an extreme challenge for me is just really understanding and experiencing, because I think that really what has challenged what has affected me so much is that I don't really think that I've experienced racism, genderism. Like, I don't really think I've experienced it to this magnitude until I got into this position.
Mm.
And so, as with anything, when you are experiencing something for the first time,
Mhm.
um, it kind of throws you off a little bit. You know, you get thrown off, and then when you are also dealing with living through a pandemic and shifting everything to um, being at home all the time, which I'm blessed that I have a beautiful home and a space to be in. But I've been in this home for 9 months because I'm too scared to really go outside that much. So, when you think about just how the pandemic has affected your physical, emotional, social, and mental health, and then but you still have to show up. You got to suit up and show up, and lead no matter what. And so when I see people not really um, being considerate of what we are experiencing and what we are enduring, and you want to bring nonsense because you don't approve of who I am and what I represent, and that I'm qualified enough to lead this space, and so you don't want to be led by me. That inconsiderate, disrespectful, unethical stuff, and it just I'm just I wonder about people like that, because I'm like, I would not. I don't care how much I disliked somebody. I don't care how much I disliked a principal or a leader or somebody who I was working with in situations and times like this. I would not be bringing nothing extra into the mix, right? Because I'm not here for me and what I'm about and what I bring. I'm here for the kids. And so we all need to be on the same page doing the same thing for the kids. No matter what anything else, no matter what we look like. Like, this is what we need to be doing. So I think the challenge has just been dealing with the extraness,
Mhm.
but then also like figuring out what this is supposed to be. And then as a leader, how do there's so many things, and I'm probably looking at the questions, and so I'll probably wait to bring in the next part. But yeah, just my mental, physical, emotional, social well-being have been the biggest challenges in really trying to keep it all together uh, in order to lead and
It's
live.
Right. And it's interesting because it wasn't just the pandemic, it wasn't just distance learning, but we had the resurgence of this anti-blackness happening in the midst of that. And so being a black
Hmm.
leader of a school in the midst of all these major things happening, I can imagine the challenges that you were faced with from the kitchen table of your home and really
Hmm.
no no real way, like, because we're separated, and so no
Yeah.
real way to address these things that are gonna,
Yeah.
I,
Hmm.
I can my heart goes out to
Yeah.
you because you
And I will,
to be committed to those young.
yeah, and I will say, like, I think there might be a time we talk about it too. Like, there's a blessing, there's blessings that COVID brought,
Hmm.
right?
Yes.
Because this resurgence of Black Lives Matter, and I mean, it is hit a point to where districts, as we know, anti-racism policies, anti-bias policies, there's a resurgence of the buzzword equity that we want to make sure that is happening, right? Um, and and so you I just lost my train of thought.
It'll come back.
It will. It'll come back. Okay, go to the next question. That's,
Okay.
I like the liveness, you just go to the next question. Then I'll figure it out later. It was probably a good point, and I'll get back to it. But we'll figure it out.
Okay, so how has your leadership been supported during distance learning?
Teamwork makes the dream work. Did we say that? We said that. I will
Good.
say that um our my group of school leaders, that we communicate together, we plan, we have a running text thread. I'm on a couple of them. That has been the support, has been just listen, being a listening ear, and for our colleagues that are all in the same in this same boat, and trying to figure this out. um that I think that that's been a huge support. And then also, I mean, our Moxies, our accountability group. I mean, it's a blessing and a curse to be in school during COVID, and trying to get a doctorate. But um, just the support has come in the shape and form of affinity spaces, to reflect, to heal, to plan, to be frustrated, to listen. I think that has been the the hugest support, has been that in that space. And then, of course, um, the blessings of having someone at home to also, love on you and support you, as we are both trying to navigate these spaces within our jobs. But I think that just that, and another way during this time, also my staff. I talked about a few, that just a few. But the majority of them, they also, I feel like, have found their voice in this space and time. Um, and so, to actually kind of feel them shift into actually encouraging me, saying, "You are our leader.
Yes.
You tell us what to do." Like, like this. How do I support you? How do I take this and run with this? And so, seeing my staff, for it's been 3 years, 2.5 years now, where I've actually wondered, like, do I even belong here? Am I even supposed to be here? Did I jump the gun too fast on becoming a principal? And was I ready um, to finally kind of see them, and as a group, come and empower themselves to speak and to believe and trust in me, has been comforting as well. And so, and just that, we got this, we're gonna figure this out, we're gonna make it work, and what you need me to do. So it's been a multitude of ways of which um, I feel like I've been supported.
That's awesome. That's great to have strong support networks because
Yeah.
we all get to that burnout point. We all get to the points where we question ourselves, but I'm here to tell you, you belong where you are.
Yeah.
You're right where God wants you to be. and you're gonna
Thank
continue
you.
climbing that ladder because we're gonna build
Thank you. Oh, that's you heard it. You heard it here in the
it.
critical sense making sessions with
Okay.
Rika, with revolutionary Rika. We got this.
How can we empower our young people during distance learning?
You know, this is a great question for me, and this is also a challenging question because we have, the state, and we won't get into the craziness of how jacked up our system is and how it's, we're trying to assume that everything is normal. We've just moved to distance, and that's okay. um so the requirements, the standards, standards-based teaching and contents and where kids are supposed to be and assessments and different things like that, and grades. The rules have presented lots of challenges, and I fear like we're gonna start to lose our kids because we have a lot of kids getting Fs. And it's not just my school. It's nationwide because the mindset is standards based. They're not turning in work. What am I supposed to grade? They get an F. And so I'm trying to work with my staff and I said this at the end of the year before we left at our last staff meeting. I said, you know what? Forget them standards at this point. We need to focus on the standards of humanity and the standards of engagement. We got to meet our kids where they are, right? The empowerment of our young people right now we're not doing standards-based education. It's not happening. It can't happen. They only see their kids probably 90 minutes a week, if that. So what we're used to giving them, we're not. And let's be real. We was below standards before COVID. So, so I think that the way that we empower our kids, our students, I know I'm in the middle school, and some of our kids, they're not even allowed to go outside because COVID is in the streets. So their parents won't let them go outside. They don't want them hanging out with nobody. You don't know what's going on. And they also have responsibilities. They have younger siblings. They have all of these things. And so I think the best way to empower them is to know that whenever we do engage and interact with them, that it's going to be something that is engaging, that is allowing them to reflect on what this pandemic and this time in this space, how it has affected their families, how it's affected them as a student, their social life. Like, what are ways that we can build on and incorporate life skills, like meet our kids where they are and what they need? So maybe I'm teaching them, okay, this is how you write an email. This is how you reach out. This is, thinking about like money, like what grade of a economic, assignment that is to say, all right, y'all, we got $600 for those that got it. What can you pay? What are your, what are bills? Look them up, and like bringing in just kind of like, so that they kind of have they're getting math, science, English, you name it. But they're also kind of being able to reflect on how this situation has affected them. And that's what I think that learning and education should be about anyway, is how is what I have to learn, how does it benefit me? How does it speak to me? How does it how does it help me understand who I am and what and where I come from?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I'm hoping like that's the only way really to empower them, is to really try to push and guide my staff and whatever it is that we are doing with our kiddos, that it's engaging and it's humanizing for them. And we're not expecting them to do all of these 20 worksheets or all of these assignments, to turn them in. And for what? They're not learning. Right. They're just regurgitating what it is you say. Right. They're just, that's all they're doing. This isn't learning. So how do we standardize humanity and engagement through this time to get us through. Because if we continue to give F's
Yeah.
and like if we continue to weaponize grades as we've done pre-COVID, like this isn't anything new,
Mhm.
right? But if you know we are focusing on how are we really using our grades. Pre-COVID, you could use, I mean, you don't want people to, but you can, kind of if a kid gets that D or that F, parents is on board. They're like, yeah. What's going on, right? You can kind of encourage through progress reports, like, why is this grade right here? Make sure you in class. During COVID, we don't know.
Mhm.
We don't know why these kids are not turning. They might not even know how to turn in their work. They might think that if they just do a Google document and they type in their assignment and they save it, it's there. They might not know they have to add it into their Google Classroom.
Mhm.
Or at 12 o'clock, when they shut down their computer screen, they got to make lunch for their little brothers and sisters. They got chores they have to do. They got to, they have to take care of their siblings.
Mhm.
And then they got to figure out homework. Well, then after that, office hours and stuff is they over at 3.
Mhm.
So if kids aren't doing their homework until like for like like there's no assistance. So we can't really weaponize grades in that way.
Mhm.
And so that's where, and I said, I'm not saying that teachers are intentionally doing it, not all of them. There's a good portion of them that, like, I don't know what else to do. They're not turning in the work. What do I do?
Mhm.
Um, and this is where the challenge for school leaders is like, well, how do you shift what you're doing?
Mhm.
If 50% of your kids are getting F's, when do you take a look at what you are doing to shift what you are doing to meet them where they are? Like, what will complete you? What is it that you could do with your kiddos, maybe within 3 assignments,
Mhm.
that you will feel complete that they have learned what it is that you are giving them? And what is it that you're trying to give them? And how really important is it?
Mhm.
Right? Like, so trying to, because if we continue to give them F's and they know that we're not going to be in school till June, then they're going to just stop showing up. And that's what I don't want.
Absolutely.
I want to see you. I don't care if we color in circles. We do a
Mhm.
red circle, we do a yellow circle, but then while we coloring, we got some music in the background. We trying to do a little line dance and try to make sure that we coloring in the lines. Hey, that's engagement, that's interaction, that's participation points for today, because we got to reimagine what it is that we are doing. And we can't forget that our kids were behind
Mhm.
before COVID.
Yep.
So let's stop saying our kids are going to be so far behind. Oh my God, they're just losing so much learning. Eh, this might be a time for us to kind of reimagine what that learning really is and how important it really is. And let's spend these next 6 months figuring out how do we bring in our students' likes, wants, desires, cultures into what we're doing so that we humanize our space and engage them, because they still need that social engagement
Mhm.
in whatever way we're able to provide it.
I hear you. I I guess I've been thinking a lot about how do we all the stuff that you just described of the student experience. How do we one acknowledge that 2020 was a traumatic event? The whole year was traumatic.
Mm-hmm.
How
Mm-hmm.
do we address that trauma in classrooms? Now, on top of that trauma, I mean, underneath that trauma, you have intergenerational trauma, individual trauma that's
Mm-hmm.
happening, but we expect them to get on and complete, standards and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So, how do we make 2020 a relevant lesson for our young people? How do we break down the stimulus bill to say, okay, this was 9 trillion, but the American people they getting a $600 check, and if you not one of the criminals who I'm just calling it what it is
Mm-hmm.
that
Okay.
frauded EDD, you just out
Mm-hmm.
of luck. You got to go stand in the food bank line, which by 11 o'clock, the food is run out. You
It's
got
gone.
BMWs and Audis in the food bank line who've never
Mm-hmm.
needed food. And so how do
Mm-hmm.
you talked about humanizing. How do we use that whole just everything, this whole experience as a learning experience to teach math, because you can break down the bill. Where did the money go? Because the money didn't go to the American people. Some nickels went to the American people, but big
Mm-hmm.
business got a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of his name. He has a mega church in Texas, Houston, I think, with Joe Osteen. How is
Oh,
he
uh-huh.
affording? He living on this. You seen his estate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's applying
Mm-hmm.
for PPO or the loans or whatever it was. So I'm like, how do we have students? That's history, that's math, that's it's all of that in one.
The
How do
color
we
of law.
exact color of law? So for me, it's like, how do we make those relevant, those experiences relevant in our lessons so that students are one learning from the pandemic, one they're engaged because they're living through it. They know what's going
Mm-hmm.
on. They look on
Mm-hmm.
social media and everybody partying with. I mean, I don't think they partying with the EDD money no more, but
Right.
them
It's
9 months.
gone. Right. Right. Um, it's funny you asked it because I've been trying to kind of come up with ways to like examples to give my staff because I want to do this kind of assignment. When I was teaching PE, and we had a health unit and one of my mentors, we did this. It was life. It was a life unit on, and so you and just by literally picking out of a bag, you picked whether or not you were married, divorced, or single, how many kids you had, what level of education you had, and then once you got pretty much what your level of education was, whether or not you were married, divorced, or whatever, um, then you had to look in the newspaper, find you a job that focused on your um on whether you had a bachelor's degree or whatever, like what could you look for that you wanted. Once they got their jobs, then we would have them, okay, so how much are you making a week? So if this is $18 an hour, you working 8 hours a day, you working 5 days a week, how much you getting at the week? Are then what's your monthly income? All right, now we got the monthly income. And now then that next week you pick how many kids do you have? Are you renting your home or are you owning your home? Like all these different things. And then they had to kind of plan out their bills. So PG&E now, and I will go through like this how much I pay for PG&E now. This was 10, 15 years ago. This how much I pay for PG&E, this how much my cell phone bill is. And we would have conversations about what are necessities and what are not necessities, and what are wants. And so they would go through and calculate up how much their bills cost, look at their money.
Mhm.
And so that was one thing. And so we would go through, it was a health unit. So we went through, illness, and we would talk about insurance and different things like that. In the summer class that I had, we had a mock stock market. And so what we would do, and I was a student in this and I don't remember it, but like we had a list of stocks. They gave us our money. And what the teacher would do was based on how the stocks were each week, he would update our list. So then we had a conversation about, okay, what you gonna keep, what you gonna what you gonna sell. Um, and I don't remember. I wish I would have remembered that more because I'm trying to get into stocks now. But like those are things that we can do when we talk about nutrition. Like you talked about, like the food bank and different things like that. How much does it cost to really eat healthy during a pandemic or healthy period? Organic food or produce, that's expensive and it's cheaper to go get the Stouffer's, dinners that have no nutritional value in them whatsoever. And that's what many of our kiddos are eating. So even developing meal plans, and then developing exercise plans for inside. So what can you do to get your heart rate going for 20 minutes while you're inside?
Mhm.
you know what are foods, for science, what are foods that give you energy? What are, and when should you eat those? And looking at water intake, like there's so many different things that we can do. In English, we're journaling. What is our experience?
Mhm.
you know how has this pandemic affected our families?
Mhm.
Have we lost people? What is it like, really being able to to get folks to really kind of express what's going on in their space. And of course, that scares people, because then you're going to hear stuff that you don't want to hear. But there's so many different things that we can do. And then again, we can spend that time allowing our students, like the meal plan is dope, like especially if you're in a diverse school, because what are healthy meals that you have, cultural meals that you have, and you could bring in these, like recipes and different things like that. And why is it so important to your family? Like there's so much that we could do with this little bit of time that it's sad that isn't considered learning. It's not considered important or core, but this is everyday usage of basic skills that our kids still need refinement on. Like they still need to know. We need to go back to teaching kids how to balance a checkbook. We probably will never have check. They probably will never have checks, but you learn how to know what was going on in your account, or how to calculate finance charges or APR rates. There's so many different things that we can be doing that's related to these core subjects that get our kids ready. Like, so we just need to focus on that. And I think that doing that for them will give them an understanding of what their parents are going through, because then you can add in the trauma, right? The trauma around how are we experiencing this. So when I'm wanting my mom to buy me that PS5 or whatever number we on, and I go through this assignment where it ain't but $20 at the end of the month, and we ain't even talked about food. It you hope that like these are just ways that we can again engage our students in some learning and really humanize this time in this space,
right,
of what we are experiencing.
I like that you said that, because even teaching them empathy for their parents, because capitalism has taught them, okay, it's Christmas, you need a new system, but yet this one still works, and there's new games out for this one too. But putting that pressure on parents to be like, well, I ain't gonna pay this month so I can give these kids a good Christmas. When if I had been taught empathy, I'd understand. This year I may not get it. Maybe it's next year. Or even if I did get it, how do I make sure somebody that didn't get it, maybe I give my old system to somebody that didn't. So teaching them to pay it forward. So I like that you said that. Yeah, I appreciate your insight on distance learning, because so many teachers or educators that I talk to and administrators, they're struggling. They are struggling. And I know that we all are, but just coming up with new innovative ways to engage and humanize education, I definitely think is important and powerful to keep our young people connected to education. Because or a couple of weeks ago, they were saying it was a group of middle schoolers running around Oakland with weapons, robbing people and trying to carjack them. And I'm like, but we failed them. I'm not even going to blame them. We failed them, because we haven't like you say, all we focus on, the union is here, so we got to make sure everything is right, which I do believe we all are impacted, but as adults, we know that whatever, like childhood, the impacts of childhood will follow you the rest of your life. And so this year, I feel for the babies. I really do feel.
Man, like it's interesting you say that, because I was having a conversation with some of my teacher leaders, and we were talking about our 7th graders, and I would say that more than half of our 7th graders got at least one F the first quarter. And this is their first experience in the secondary world, right? Like this is the first year that things count. I mean, it's still middle school, so you still, not everything you got it, but we only got 2 years to get them ready for high school. But if they're coming in with this mindset, even if like their kids are like, I'm there every day, like I'm in there, I'm on there, and I here's the assignment. But like, if this is how they experience school right now will definitely dictate their trajectory through secondary and on. And so I'm with you. Like, I feel so sorry for the babies, because the system has set up this space of this is what needs to be done, and this is how it needs to be done because it's normal. those that are actually doing the work and living it, we know that that's not working for us.
Mhm.
But because this is what they are telling us to do, and this is where that whole status quo, and we talk about all, we don't have to, I don't have to change nothing because this is what they're telling me I need to do. And if the kids aren't getting it, well, then that's just on them. Like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like if we don't change that mindset, we are damaging kids' secondary lives. Like this is that start. So we got to figure out how do we keep them excited and engaged about learning and not weaponize them with grades
Right.
because of this. So I feel for them. I also feel for our staff that have to be at school. Like they have to come out in the elements
Mhm.
and be there. And fortunately, you know, our district, there's a few people that have to be there, but most of us, it's up to you. It's whatever is comfortable for you. And I appreciate that because home is comfortable for
Mhm.
me. Um, but as a leader, I also have to consider the health and well-being of my staff that are on campus. And so and thinking about when I go on campus, we bring people. When my office manager, if anytime school personnel is actually on campus where questions can be answered, where people can show up to pick up stuff, we're opening up our space and challenging the health of the folks that need to be there every day. So I think that's the another piece for me that is really hard, is really trying to um listen and empathize with our my staff that that we're all struggling. Like you said, like this is not easy. Yes, I love being at home. I love saying I'm about to be late and running downstairs and hopping on my Zoom and and I'm here, like I love that. But I also have brought a lot of stuff that normally doesn't come in my house. Speaking of like feelings and experiences. So that it's challenging, but I'm fortunate that I don't have to be at my job every day. But because I don't have to be there, it doesn't mean that I don't discredit and not care about those that do need to be there. So I think, like, as a leader, like it's so hard to just kind of juggle and balance.
Mhm.
Like, what's that joker that has like something on like their hands and then their feet is kind of up in the air, like literally, like this is what you're doing every day, and you just never know what's gonna happen and what's next. Um, so yeah, it's we gonna all need some therapy after this is all said and done, because it's not getting better anytime. So we still got another work. We got another challenging patch before
Yep.
I feel like we are definitely on that road to getting back to whatever. Not even getting back, just to being able to go back outside. We feel like
All right, I'm going to move us into our final set of questions, and I really appreciate your insight around distance learning. I know a lot of parents and educators will benefit from this conversation. Share anything you are doing to educate others on the importance of effective leadership during the pandemic.
definitely leading by example. Modeling goes back to that modeling. Um, I don't think that it started in the pandemic, but I probably got a little more vocal during the pandemic and really, because saying forget the standards, that's like a no. Like, what do you don't say that, right?
Mhm.
So actually making that stance and just saying like we are not going to do this, like standing my ground on things that are just like this is non-negotiable for us right now. Like we're not going to do this. This doesn't make sense, or this. I think just being vocal, um, and then even with the staff, like even it's like some of our weekly check-ins. We don't need to meet every week. Some of our check-ins is like, hey, hi, have a good afternoon,
Mhm.
right? Like just humanizing leadership again, and understanding that we all are experiencing this in different ways. Many of my staff, they have their own kids at home, so I think that for me, it's just really focusing on what's important and what could be in an email, and like really valuing time and mental stability. Being trying to be as cognizant as possible and in tune as possible with, when I have my staff all with me, what am I seeing? Like, what is on their faces? Are they completely drained? Because even when we're drained, even if I'm playing a game, like, okay, like this is cool, but I'd rather be off the screen and kind of resting. So just really being mindful of what I'm experiencing, and knowing that everybody's experiencing it in whatever way, shape, or fashion. And so just being vocal and intentional about speaking up about what can work, what needs to work, and what we should not be considering or even focusing on when we're going through this time. So I think for me, like, that is the biggest the biggest thing that I think that I'm giving is just being, and that goes back to what I was saying of like having that umbrella of influence and wanting to move up, because as a teacher, I wouldn't be able to just say like, hey, don't even worry about that today. Like, it's okay, right? But leading a school, I could say, you know what, we're not meeting today. Go ahead, use that time, go outside, go do something, because we're not meeting. We're not doing, or we're not doing this. Oh, we missed that deadline. Don't even worry about it, because we in the pandemic, and nobody has time to be doing all of these trainings on bloodborne pathogens when we sitting at home. So it's just, it's like, again, being that person that is understanding what, trying to just focus on what's the needs and what's necessities, and what can just be pushed to the side, and then vocalizing that so that other people can hear. Because I always get people saying like, oh my God, I'm so glad you said that. And I be like, oh my God, won't you say it next? How come it just has to be me? Right?
Right.
I get all these like private messages at the end of these meetings, like, oh my God, I'm so glad you said that. I'm glad they need to hear that. This is that. I'm like, yeah. So next time they come out with this craziness, how about you say something so that it's not just me?
Yeah.
Right. So, if we're all hearing it, if they're hearing it all from us in this space of what's supposed to be our time to connect, to collaborate, to communicate, to learn about what's going on, then it just needs not to be heard from the Black lady
Right.
who angry now and bitter.
Right.
Right. It needs, if this is how you're feeling, they need to see it from this Latino male that is struggling, or this Latino female that is struggling, or this white, leader that is struggling also, who we just all put on this face. It needs to, like, folk, we all need to be sharing the same thing, because we are having those conversations. Right. And so, yeah.
That's great. Have you taken any action to provide students with equity during the pandemic?
Probably not enough, I don't think, I would say. Um, I've given out over 800 Chromebooks.
Yes.
You've probably given out over 200 hotspots. Um, I've worked with my attendance clerk in, how we are coding attendance concerns and issues, because that's a whole nother piece of crap that, is required. But all our money is attached to that. So we're not even gonna go there. That's a whole nother critical sense making session. Um, but making sure that they have the technology, making sure that we are available to help them with the technology. Like we do, we're on a Zoom everywhere. It's like the main office Zoom. So it's just like you walking into the main office. We just on the computer. So when kids, they can't find their class, they don't know where their Zoom link is, like we're open and available for them. This is a time for parents to be able to come in. So we're doing that, and trying to make sure that we get them, the necessary tools. I try to try to give my teachers like whatever programs or online resources that they want to use, um, that hopefully makes their teaching a little easier for them, and try to make sure that we get those things in place for our staff. And then we also, I mean, we give out, I don't know if this has too much to do with equity, but we do give out food every Thursday. So families can come by and get a box of um, canned goods, some dry goods, and then a bag of produce. And so we started that end of November, and we'll be doing that ongoing every Thursday. So just whatever ways, I can make sure that we can support them as much as possible with making distance learning as easy as possible for them while they're at home. We try to do a few events, like Zoom events, like dances and different things like that, just to make sure that they know that you don't have to come to us just for the math, English, science, and history. Like there's some other things that we can do that kind of emulate what school was. So I think that is it. I mean, I think the good thing was just the technology was huge. Like I'm glad that we now know that we can give every kid a Chromebook,
Right.
and a hotspot,
Yes.
right? So that we can now 21st centuryize our lessons, and we can use more online resources, get out of them textbooks, which most of us, a lot of teachers have gotten away from the textbooks, which is good, but like there's so much stuff out there now.
Mm-hmm.
And so hopefully now with kids being able to access stuff at home and at school, uh, we can improve what it is that we are teaching and giving our students.
Yeah, and I just want to applaud you for. I saw your posts when you guys when you started handing out the food, and I definitely think that's equity. That's giving students what they need. They're in need of extra food in those homes. Parents have lost jobs. They are, even though they may get, what is it, the food
Mm-hmm.
uh,
EBT. Mm-hmm.
they still are in need. Like, and so I really, when I saw that, I was trying to post it out, but I think it was all
We
gone by.
were we were done, but you know what? It's every Thursday, and it's for the community. So to folks that are listening, every Thursday from about I think we start at 11 until all of the boxes are gone. There's food giveaway. We're at Chavez, Cherryland, Elementary in Hayward, Winton
Mhm.
Middle School. So those are three places that I know are giving out food. And there's a few more in Hayward, but every Thursday until until we run out, there's there's food, and it's for the community. It's not just for our families, it's for the community. And it's important. And we even say, I was talking with one of my colleagues, and we were talking about even some of our teachers, our staff members. Like it's not just our family. When I think about families, I think about every from my staff family. Like family is the whole community, right? It's definitely our students and our families, but our staff, they're struggling too.
Yep.
It's hard living. It was hard living in California pre-COVID.
Right.
So yeah, so I'm glad I pushed for that. I pushed for us to be a site that was giving out food. So I'm definitely happy that we're able to do that.
Right. Well, how do you advocate for the needs of the community? I know we just talked about the food, but are there other ways that you do that as well?
Every chance that I get. One thing that is happening, when you are in low income schools, you have a lot of grants, like, grant money, and which is amazing. I'm not talking bad about none of the grant money, because let me tell you something, they take care of me, of my staff, of our school community. I love it. The one thing that I've been advocating for our parents, though, is the amount of time that we are asking to meet with them, or surveys. Like I feel like we have over surveyed our staff and students, our students and families.
Mhm.
And we're asking the same questions. And so when I'm in meetings and we're talking about, well, we need to get the community out, and we need to find out, and we need to send out this parent survey, and we need to do this student survey. And I'm like, okay, look, y'all, I have this survey, this survey, this survey, and this survey for my students. The demographic questions are all the same. And the questions that you're asking are all the same. So like this is too much. Like it's overload, right? And then like the parent meetings, there's been town hall meetings, there's monthly parent meetings, there's all of these meetings. And yes, we might get more people showing up because it's on Zoom, right? But then we might not because we in a pandemic.
Mhm.
And parents, everybody is overwhelmed. And if I'm coming to a meeting to be told what my kid needs to do, how they need to do it, why they're not doing it, or if I'm coming, if you're just asking me questions about do I want them to come back, it's a lot. And I know that, we all need to be well informed, and we need to be what we do needs to be informed by what our parents and our students are feeling and thinking and needing and saying. Um, but one way I've been advocating is like, let's minimize
Mhm.
the surveys. I mean, how neoliberal, I don't even want to get into it. Like, we're giving all of this information so we can tell these people who got all this money
Mhm.
that these poor children need I mean, all the demographic information that we're giving. This is how we save these communities. It's just it's hard. It's hard, and it's not just like the grants and things that we have. It's all of it. Do we go back to school? Do we not? Like we're just it's too much.
Yeah.
It's too much at times, and so I think that is one way that I advocate for the needs. And then the other thing is just really advocating for what we're giving, how we're using our asynchronous time.
Yeah.
How many assignments are we giving? What are we really doing? Like, how are we really engaging our students
Mhm.
through this time? And so I think that those are two things that I just stay speaking up about is, like let's make sure that we're not overwhelming our parents with meetings and things to be showing up for and whatever. Um, and minimize, how the surveying, the over surveying of
Yeah.
our kids. Like there should be a general demographic survey that is given. So when we have grants that, and granted, there's some of our federal funding, there's specific things that they want to know about, but we can develop a generic type of survey or something that's given once.
Mhm.
Not much changes throughout the year in regards to your demographics, right?
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, just ways that we don't overwhelm them with um, getting used to technology, because a lot of them, if it's not, I mean, let's be real, if it's not Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, or their own personal work system, whatever it is they're using at work, all the stuff that we are trying to get folks to do, clueless,
Mhm.
clueless.
And just being inundated with that screen time and more
Hmm.
and meeting about meetings, and it's like, can we synthesize what we already have and use that as a starting point instead of asking them to come in again to do another survey to ask the challenges when we already have that information.
Hmm. Like there was one thing I had to push back on. It was about like immunizations and the paperwork, like the registration form. It's like, look, we ain't at school.
Right.
I'm not forcing people to come outside their house in the middle of a pandemic to fill out some paperwork. We have
Right.
already said that they can go to school. They in school. They online. When it's time for us to go back in person, then that is a time for them to make sure that we have everybody get it. I said, but I'm not forcing people to go out of their house to get some vaccinations or immunization records
Mhm.
for us sitting at home. Well, we talked about that in that class, the lady. But yeah, like the registration, like I told my office staff, I was like, look, we got all the people that we gonna get for
Mhm.
right now.
Mhm.
We'll push this again later when we talk to them. We happen to know that, oh, I don't have the information. We get them on the phone. We will walk through it. But we're not going to sit up here and call these people every day, try to get them to fill out this work, this paperwork,
Mhm.
because a lot of them can't read.
Right.
A lot of them don't even know what they're signing. They don't know how to access it. They don't have a computer. They're trying to do it on their phone. Oh, but wait, you can't do it on your phone. You have to do it on the computer. Well, if they don't have a computer, well, then they can use their kid's computer, or they can come up to the school. Come up to the school? What we coming to the school for? Why are we gonna do that? You gonna bring the COVID to the school? Like, seriously, it's like, for what? Is this really important? And I think that that's the hugest thing that we ask in these spaces. And is this really, is this a necessity right now for us to do what it is we need to do to get from point A to point B, from January to June at this point?
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And so the last and final question, have you created any resources to counteract oppression?
I'm actually in the middle of creating one right now. I will say that poses challenges because, you know, the resources that you create, you need people to actually implement and use. And if folks are not clear about maybe how they are oppressing students, then it's very hard to get those, you know, like those are the spaces where these resources need to happen. One thing that I'm doing is, like I said, with our F grades and all of this, I'm creating using my interns, actually, student teachers, our counseling interns, some of my younger teacher leaders, and then a group of folks. We are trying to develop out I'm calling it like the student union. So this is going to be like hopefully like a one-stop shop in the afternoon, maybe like 3 to sometime, where there's clubs, you know, there's homework help. We're going to do some case management with some of our students who have like 3 or 4 Fs, and try to get, you know, do some case management with our interns, of getting them on track, like weekly check-in meetings in the beginning of the week. What do you have? You got all your links, you know what homework you have, check with them at the end of the week. Utilizing some of our student teachers to do some like 20-minute interventions, math and English interventions, refinement of skills, figuring out where they are, trying to move them to where they need to be to get them close to grade level as possible. And then also offering that homework help. All right, come on in. This is a science homework lab. We're working on science homework. Bring it in and let's do it. Right. And then we also have our clubs and anything else, just a space of social interaction. I'm kind of course, playing off a different world, because that's what I remember. And then, you know, being from Del State, I got it on DSU, HBCU life. I remember going to the student union and what it was like when you went in there, right? You can get some of everything. We can't give out food, but you know, you get some homework help. You have some time to chill and socialize with and plan and network with your colleagues. You got homework help. You got your club life. And just, you know, so that is, I think, something that I'm trying to build into, even if it's showing kids, this is how you turn in your work. You know, do you even know how to add in information on this Google slide? This is how you do that. So I think that's one thing that I'm trying to do, to create. And then using our student teachers, one thing that I've been trying to relive is, I remember when I was in school and at Del State, and I had to do like my practicum hours for my degree, and I was at the elementary school around the corner, and then I was at the high school. But schools opened up their doors to college students, and I mean, we're right down the street from Cal State, so like how do we create that pipeline of you know, providing spaces for interns and incoming teachers to get that real life example and real life experience of what it's like when they get out there. So I'm fingers crossed. I'm trying to use this as an opportunity, as a way to really kind of open up my school for that space, for the new educators coming out of Cal State and any other school. You know, if they're with us, just trying to find ways to empower their teacher leadership.
That's awesome. That's amazing, Mo. And I know once that gets off the ground, it's going to be powerful for the community, period. And
Man, hopefully we can get it going. So we'll see. Our goal is to start have it up and running by beginning of third quarter. So we got pretty much the month of January to make it do what it do.
I can't wait to witness to see what it is. So that's
Oh, you
powerful.
gonna be part of it.
Look, you know I'm there. So I want to just say
Yeah.
thank you, Mo, for coming on and sharing some of your stories, sharing your insights with the viewers. And I want to just lift up some of the pearls that I heard you say throughout the conversation. I heard a lot, but I'm not going to share them all, but I'll share just some of the ones that really resonated with me. And you talked about growing from our mistakes to make us stronger leaders. And so I think the modeling is important, but understanding mistakes are going to happen because we're human, right? And so just being able to grow from those, learn from those, and grow. And then I heard you say reinventing what parent engagement looks like. So creating an experience because just sending surveys or having meetings and town halls, sometimes like that's not an experience for parents. So just reinventing what that looks like. Building strong support networks are important for all of us to grow, right? And so on those
Mhm.
times when we're taxed or we're just feeling stressed, we have a group of people to lean on, and not just one group, but several groups to lean on. So I appreciate you lifting that up. Um, I also liked when you said, always show up in a space as your authentic self. Um, we all have been in those positions where we've had to put on masks and it was not comfortable. And so I think showing up as your authentic self, you bring more value to the conversation and to the table, and people walk away with so much more when you're able to do that. I also heard you say to take risk. Don't be afraid to take risk. That's what it's all about. That's life, right? If we just stayed safe, we would never get anywhere. The importance of empowering student voice. When I heard you speak about that, that really spoke to my heart because I think that's the most important thing. We come from cultures where they've told us to children are to be seen and not heard. And when we don't give them an opportunity to talk and discuss and talk through some of the things they experience when they grow up, they never have that courage to stand up and speak up. So I appreciate you
Mhm.
highlighting that. And then I'll just share one more that you said that education needs to focus on not to focus on the standards, but on the standards of humanity and engagement. I think that's big because we have gone so far away from that that we've used students as receptacles, just pouring
Mhm.
information to them, that much of that information they'll never utilize. A lot of it does not stick. And so how do we not just teach life skills, but things that help them think about the whole of humanity, not just America, not just California, but all seven continents? How do we really humanize that experience and engage them in a way that is going to impact them for the rest of their lives? So again, I say thank you, Mo, for coming on and sharing your experience. And at this time, you can share one last final tip or advice with the viewers, and the last voice that they hear will be yours.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity. This definitely gave me some insight into the writing that I will be continuing after we get off today. I think the one thing that I leave with all the time is just, be safe, be well, stay encouraged. Um, it's a struggle, but we doing it together. Um, there's a light at the end of this tunnel, as there are so many tunnels, and we'll get there. But you need to wear your mask. You need to stay at home. Take care of business. Love your loved one. Love on your loved ones. Um, and just be understanding and because we all are figuring this out. Um, and then of course, teamwork makes the dream work, and never stop speaking up.